All right, everyone. Here we are with Kevin Falk, eighth placer, the fourth member of the jury. How are we today, Kevin?
We're good. We're good. It's been a few days since the game ended. I'm still quite frustrated at a good majority of the people left in the game, to be honest with you. But we're good overall. Hat off today. Been chilling. Did some promo for my own org, which you guys should check out. But yeah, we're fine.
So let's talk about your game a little bit. So
Yes.
we you start off this game on OG Carval,
Mhm.
where I would say you had a pretty decent social game in the beginning. Um, you won your tribe won the first immunity challenge, so you didn't really have to like strategize on who to vote out. And then the next two rounds, boom, you went to the pit. Let's talk about the Corey vote. What was going in your mind? Well, what was happening in your mind when Corey was blindsided?
Okay, so my whole plan in this game, as you know from like my prod chat, was basically that I wanted to try to play a game where I could do two things. One, establish all of these like really good connections with people to where my name would not be considered as an option. Two, I didn't want to get any votes at a tribal, and thankfully it wasn't happening then. But here's the thing with the Corey vote is that Corey is someone that from the jump I wanted to connect with. We already had a pretty somewhat strong connection. He had remembered that we had interacted before and things. I was like, great, I can use this, as a way to, build. I can build off of that a bit. I can really do what I can to maintain that connection. This is going to be someone that's on my side. He pulls me into this alliance, which I was told after he was voted out was kind of bullshit. But like, my perspective when he was voted out is I was just really shocked, to be honest with you, because I felt like the dynamic of that tribe was like super just like chill. And we were kind of just like, whoever people just weren't vibing with, that's who was going to go. I assumed it was going to be David because, in my personal opinion, and some people agreed with me. Not everybody agreed with me, apparently, but some people agree with me. My view of David was basically like, he wasn't around the first, for the first round at all. He came back and I just felt he came across as super ingenuine. He was trying way too hard to like try to make up for lost time, but he was doing it in a super obvious way. I get on a call with him, and where he completely loses me is getting on that call and basically alluding to the fact that he's really only calling me because he hasn't spoken to me or Corey yet, and then having the audacity to like throw like a final two at me, which I knew was bullshit. I just after that, like I just did not trust David at all. And so I assumed that people were getting the same type of response from David, just because, like I said, the way he was coming across, it just didn't feel genuine to me. Whereas Corey, it seemed like was someone that people were generally connecting with. Also, the whole Extinguishers Alliance, my entire plan was I wasn't going to stay super loyal to it, but I wanted to use it as basically like cushioning, as a way to keep myself safe. These are people I wasn't going to betray in any way. So the Corey vote happening just really threw me for a loop. After that, I had to rethink basically every single conversation I had with people that round. That's really where my whole thing started. Of my reads are at just an all-time low in this game. And I feel like for me, that kind of changed up the way I wanted to play the game moving forward. So, and that was a vote where, to be honest with you, I did not want that to dictate the rest of the game. I wanted that to just be, I didn't vote correctly, I can move on. But it just seemed like that vote kind of kicked off what the rest of the game turned into. So I would say at first I was initially confused, but that confusion has very much grown into just this very palpable sense of frustration that I just really hate the fact that people are still like fixating on that round so much, because I feel like since that round has happened, like the game has just never been the same since.
We'll talk about the rest of the players later on,
Yeah.
but
Oh, we definitely will. We definitely will.
we give you guys um wow. Okay, so we alluded to a music video challenge. But not only that, you guys were thrown in a loop with a swap. You ended up in a majority OG tribal lines where you guys went to the pit again, and viewers and everyone who would be watching Survivor, would expect like OG tribe would stick together. Mike gets blindsided. Let's go through that. Mike getting blindsided. What was going through your head in that?
I have some thoughts on this, and I'll talk about that in a little bit. My initial thought was, and I've said this so many times, my goal with Mike in this game is I wanted to do two things. One, I wanted to play a game where we did not target each other. I didn't want this to be another game where, it just got really like toxic between two of us, because when we're going after each other, it's not like fun. Like it hurts both of us. Like we don't enjoy doing that. And it has like there has been times where, we've targeted each other and it's had like serious blowback on like our friendship to the point where we don't talk for like weeks after. So I didn't want that to be the case in this game. I want this to be a positive experience for the both of us, but I also wanted him to get to merge. He's never made a merge in a Survivor game before, at least in a very long time. But I wasn't going to like push that too hard, because if I'm doing that, people are probably going to find out about our connection. And I knew at some point that it was going to happen, but I felt the way that Mike had played the round, he was pretty well insulated to where he wasn't going to be an option that round. And to be honest with you, I don't think that was the move to take him out. I still very much don't think that was the move to take him out. I think the time to get Mike out is like first juror or second juror. You recognize there's a very well, like what happened with Jess and Joe, for example. Like you recognize there's a known connection in the game, take them out then. Not take out someone who has made really good social connections with people and probably is gonna be one of the only people to ally with someone, Madison. Two, has proven himself to be this challenge asset. I think we absolutely needed Mike on that tribe, because the second that Mike left, like, yeah, he did really bad in the puzzle, but like prior to that, like Mike was very much this challenge asset of sorts. And I think the next challenge that we had, he would have done really well. We could have potentially gotten a win there. So I think it was a really dumb move, to be honest with you. And then finding out what I know about how Mike ended up getting out, that really pisses me off, but we can get into that a little bit later on. But yeah, my general thought was just, wow, once again, my reads are just not very good, or people are just making really dumb fucking moves. And I think they came to the conclusion, people are just making really dumb fucking moves. Madison especially completely fucked herself over there. Like absolutely just lost my trust after that. So yeah, I just think that was a really dumb move in retrospect. And it wasn't even like, if they were trying to make a move against me, you didn't do much, because Mike was never like that big of a factor in my game. He was someone I was going to work as closely as I could with, but he wasn't like one of my number one allies or something like that. I wanted this to be a positive experience for us, but I wanted him to generally play the game on his own. I wanted to play my game on my own. So like, it really didn't impact my game a ton, other than the fact that I think the way he got out was just really unnecessary. And I think the blind side, especially, I didn't enjoy. So.
Okay. So, Madison gets voted out next. There really wasn't much to talk about there. I feel like you guys both, everyone in your tribe, agreed
that she fucked herself over. That's simple.
Like, Madison didn't join the challenge, nor did she tell her tribe she was going to be there, weren't going to be there. You made it to the merge. From there, what was your ideal plan since you're at the merge? Who was your, obviously at that point, no one really knew where the line stood. And what was your lines? Where were you staying loyal to?
Oh my God. That whole round was fucking nuts, because there were so many paths that I could have taken within the game. And here's my thing. I really like the OG Carbow tribe a lot. And that's going to surprise you, because right now I'm very frustrated, the majority of them. But if you were to talk to me, like right when we got to merge, I would say this is probably one of the best starting tribes I've ever had. Maybe the best starting tribe I've ever had. I really just enjoyed a lot of those people. I vibed really well with them. We'll talk a little bit more about that when we get there. But like, my initial thought was if OG carve out, if everyone's down for it, yeah, let's make it happen. And I was totally down for that to be a thing until I get word from Jess. And Jess basically starts talking to me about how supposedly David was like on calls, like talking shit about both of us and things like that, getting this information from Lucy, that I guess Lucy had a close connection with David, and David would like, talk shit about us on calls and whatnot. And knowing the fact that David is still targeting us, when my initial plan, and I should have done this, like, mind you, I definitely should have done this, but I didn't. My initial plan was to message David and be like, hey man, I know I voted you out, but like, let's try to start off on a clean slate here. Let's try to move forward. I'm not coming for you. I wasn't in, like, that was just a bad vote. And that's the name that I heard. But after hearing that, I just felt like there was no possible way for me to move forward with David in the game. He didn't bother messaging me, only message me like every so often. And when he does, it was very like general stuff. So I just felt like after that, OG Carval does not benefit me. And it sucked because these are people that I really wanted to work with. Aaron, for example, I connected so well with in the pre-merge. Chantel, we literally just went through both the pre-merge and the swap together. So like, she was definitely someone that I wanted to stay loyal to, but ultimately I came to the conclusion that it did not benefit me. What benefited me was to work with the Incendios for a little bit and try to kind of level the playing field a bit, take out one of their own, and then eventually pivot over to the Carval side. That's really what I wanted to do. I wanted to pivot throughout the game, and there was just no avenue for me to do that because the way people wanted to play this game, they just didn't want to do that. They didn't want to waver from their other side, unless your name is Brian Weber. Didn't want to waver over from their other side, and that was just very frustrating to me. So while initially like I was down for like, majority alliance type thing, I ultimately came to the conclusion that it just didn't benefit me. And by the time I had, I thought that we were going to be able to pull off like the Incendio move and things like that. It just felt like after that, like we just didn't have much of a chance because, nobody wanted to do anything.
Okay, let's talk about the biggest thing you've done this season. Correctly playing an idol.
Oh my God, I still don't know how I got that fucking thing.
Gaining a total of 7 votes against you and sending Chantal home with only 2. So you mentioned it before that Jess went to you.
Yes.
Let's talk about that. So if Jess had not come to you, would you have not used your idol or would you have still used it?
So my initial plan was that I was trying to do basically what we just saw Marianne do in 42, where like she held on to it for as long as she possibly could, never needed to play it, got someone else to play it for her and things like that. That's kind of what I wanted to do, mainly because of the fact that, look, I've never gotten an idol in a Survivor game before. I wanted to use it at like the perfect time. I wanted to use it in a way where it's like, this is my winning move. This is something I can say at FTC. But the second I got on call with Jess and she's basically telling me like, yeah, it's not looking good for you, I was like, fuck, I need to play this thing. And ultimately, I do think it somewhat helped because that really got me in closer with both Jess and Joe, who I had then found out had this like built-in connection of sorts, which really helped out me because Joe's someone I'm already vibing with. And then Jess and I had solidified a final 2 of sorts, basically the previous round. And, having Joe in there just worked out a lot. So no, I wasn't initially planning to play it. I just thought that I had to. And clearly that was like one of the only times I had good reads within the game because, I could have gone there. I think, when it came to that idol, I think I played it as well as I could because even Jess said she didn't think for a second that I had one. So clearly I did something right there. It just sucks that I couldn't have held on to it longer because I was really trying to hold on to it until I absolutely needed to. The problem is the time I need to absolutely play it was literally the round that I had it. So it was a great move for sure. I think it's probably the best move I've made in an org, to be honest with you. I just wish it happened a lot later in the game.
So we go into the live night. Joe gets voted out first. Blindside to his alliance. No one knew that. And then, boom, you were the second victim of the live night. What was your thoughts? You blew up, obviously. You said a
Oh
lot of
yeah.
things to everyone. Um, let's talk about that. Let's talk deeper with that little blow up you had at the end when you found out you got voted out.
Oh, I meant every fucking damn word of what I said. Like, I was just so frustrated for a couple reasons. One of the biggest reasons was because I think I just really wanted this to not be a side versus side game. I wanted this to be a lot more fluid. And I thought that people were willing to flip. I would have conversations with Josh, with Aaron, and they would talk to me about how, like, they, created this group of sorts and they're willing to work with, like, Jess, Joe, and I, and, like, we could potentially flip the game. And, like, I don't understand the reasoning in telling someone that when you're not even going to attempt to work with them. I just didn't really understand that at all. I don't like it when I'm going into a room and I'm overhearing Brian being like, we have the numbers, they're going to be scrambling. I fucking knew he was talking about us. Like, and he's at the bottom of the, like, that group. I hope he realizes that. And, like, so what really just frustrated me about this is that, yes, I can understand why it may be compelling to, like, try to work as a group majority. But when it comes to the merge and things like that, and you can see that there are people that want to make an effort to work with you. Aaron, for example, is someone I would constantly try to get people to pull her in on things. I would say, try to talk to Aaron. Aaron is someone we can get. Same with Josh. So, like, the fact that people just didn't even attempt to waver, it felt like that's what really frustrated me. It wasn't so much the fact that these people had, like, a very obvious majority alliance. It was the fact that they would get on call and downplay it constantly and make it seem like they were willing to, like, make moves to, like, fuck others over. And I just didn't really understand that. Like, I don't really understand the point of messaging someone being like, hey, this is the time to take out David. I have a group that wants to do it together. Are you in? And then me saying I'm in and then fucking flipping against me. Like, it's unnecessary. It's honestly unnecessary. Like, if you're going to do that, just be like, oh, I don't really know where the votes are and things like that. Like, just bullshit me. I would rather you just bullshit me than, like, come up with this whole voting plan and then just completely go against it. So that's what really frustrated me, was the fact that people didn't seem to want to waver at all. And also the fact that people were just constantly just, like, lying to me unnecessarily about things. That's what really I think drove that anger within me. But I'm happy that I said what I said, to be honest with you, because I feel like a lot of them just really needed to hear that.
All right. So before we jump into you as a juror, we're gonna bounce
Yes.
back to some details that we missed.
Okay.
The Brett vote. When you found out that Brian was the one who flipped, what was going through your head in that moment?
Honestly, like, I wasn't that upset. I really wasn't. Like, at first, I was definitely disappointed, because I was like, okay, we had an opportunity to take out David. Because it was mainly because, like, I just really needed David out of this game because of what people were constantly telling me, and also the fact that, like, I did try to message David about the vote, and he's like, oh, we haven't talked game at all. We're not going to start now. And then he just moved on to something else. So I didn't really appreciate that. But then it's also the fact that when it came to, one, I really did like, talking to Brett and things like that. But when it came to, like, Brian flipping, once he explained to me why he did, I understood it. I didn't think it was that big of a deal. With him talking about how, I was in a 3 with, like, Lucy and Brett, and I felt that I was at the bottom of that. I understood that. The problem is, I think he did it too early. That's really my problem. I think what he needed to do was vote with us for a little bit and then flip when he felt it necessary. And maybe that's because that's kind of like what I was trying to do. But I feel like that was Brian's ideal path. I think if he had done that and he flipped on us a lot later on in the game, things go a lot differently for us. And I think Brian is a much more well set up for the end game than he is now, to where I really just don't think he has a chance to even make it to the end, because I think he's at the bottom of an alliance. So yeah, at the time, like, I wasn't, like, frustrated or anything like that. But upon thinking about it, I just don't think it was the right move to make at that time. And it's also the way he handled it, because the thing is, like, when Josh was going to be voted out, Brian was the one who pitched that name initially. Nobody had any thoughts of voting for Josh. And then Brian gets on call and starts talking about how like Josh is throwing out like Jess and I's names and things like that. And then we decide to pivot the vote to Josh. And then he decides to go to Josh and tell him about the plan. Like, I just, there are a lot of things I'm just very unclear with Brian's game. I don't understand the way that he handled it. And I think that if he had flipped a lot later on in the game, I just think it would have gone a lot better for him. So yes, I was frustrated, but it's not because of what he did. It's when he did it. That's really how I would sum that up.
All right. Last thing before we talk about is the jury part.
Yeah.
You walk into the jury and you found out that Chantal had the OG carve out idol. When you found that out, do you think it was the right move to actually get her out at that moment, or do you think like it should have been like she should have used it and Liam should have went?
I think I think the way the game was going with the reads that we had, it made sense for Chantal to go there. But if Lee went, like, it would not have been like that big of a deal to me, because that's another number like on a side that I'm not working with that would have gone, especially knowing what I know now, because Chantal basically told me like, yeah, Lee was coming after you and things like that. Like, if I had known that, definitely I would have been, much more inclined to go for Lee. Lee just didn't talk that much game with me. But yeah, she definitely should have played that idol. Like, absolutely. I get why she didn't, because I think that she was convinced that I was just going to go out like probably Yunnan. Even though like she told me that she was voting for Lee, and then didn't. So like, I get why she didn't play it. I think she was just really like confident about it, but she definitely should have, like, for sure.
Were you shocked that she didn't play it, or did you know? I mean, obviously no one knew, but like, were you shocked when you went into the jury and like found out?
Oh yeah. Yeah. I was very shocked. I was convinced she just didn't have it. Like, I was honestly convinced that somebody like that we wouldn't have expect had it, like a Lee or a Josh or an Aaron, and that's why she didn't play it. But knowing that she actually had it and then didn't play it, yeah, I was shocked about that, because especially when there's like only 5 people eligible for votes, it's too risky. Like, you got to play it. So I was surprised that she didn't, because I thought for sure if she had it, she would have. So.
All right. So let's talk about you as a jury.
Oh my God.
As a juror, what are you looking in as far as like a finalist? Like, what kind of gameplay are you expecting for them? Like, not gameplay. How do I say this? What are you looking for in a finalist when voting for them to win?
So my whole thing when it comes to this jury is I just want transparency. Like, I want them to explain why they made the moves that they made, but also how did it benefit their individual games? Because I feel like a lot of these people that are left in the game, it didn't benefit them. They were part of a group, they latched onto it, and that's been their entire game. So like, people like a Lee, for example, I don't know Lee's game aside from apparently targeting me the entire time, which was a bad read on his end because I was never after him. I don't know his game besides that. David, I want to know, like, why did you not try to at least make an attempt to message me and talk game with me? Like, why did you not attempt to do that? Why did you immediately assume just because of the Corey vote that I was going to target you? So I want to know that from him. When it comes to Josh, I want to know why he went on call with me and said, I don't want this to be a side versus side thing. And then basically did everything in his power to make it that. So that's something that I really want to know from him, because I don't understand why you would tell someone that. Like, just be honest and say, this is just how it is. Like, you're not going to get out of it. Like, I think that's the best, that's the best thing that he could have done in that scenario. And then with Brian, I want to know, like, why did he make that move when he did? Why did he feel then was the time to make that move? Like, that's really what I want to know from him. The only 2 people, to be honest with you, that I feel like fully comfortable voting with are Aaron and Jess. And the reason I say Aaron is because, yes, Aaron has played this game where she has constantly been saying, like, I don't want to win. I just want to make friends. Like, that's what I'm here for. But it's worked for her. Like, it's been working for her. She has basically been playing a social game the entire time. She has kept people on her good side. She's never unnecessarily lied to people. She's never said yes to anything she doesn't want to do. So, like, I don't have any bad blood against Aaron whatsoever, because she never she never agreed to any idea that did not benefit her. And she also like still continued to reach out to me, continue to have good conversations, continue to just kind of just do things in a lighthearted manner, to where I was pretty much fine, with her playing the game that she was. And then Jess, I mean, look, Jess was my final two, but I think she's played an impeccable social game. I think that she did what I wanted to do, but has done it better. I think the thing that Jess has done really well is that she has tried to find ways to get in that majority, but also get people on her side, to where if she wanted to pull off a vote, she might eventually be able to do it. So those are really the only two people that I feel comfortable with voting right now. Everyone else, I'm just very questionable on their game. So for me, like I said, what I'm looking for is transparency, but also I want answers. I want genuine answers as to why they played the game that they did, because I feel like right now there's just a lot of people that I'm just very conflicted on. Why did this benefit you? Why is this the way you played the game, especially in the merge phase?
All right. So you mentioned about the two people that you would most likely vote for is Aaron and Jess. So aside from that, if those two people actually are in the jury and it's between David, Lee, Josh, and Brian, who is inclined to get your vote the most?
If it's Josh, Brian, and Lee,
and David, like if it's a mixture of those four.
To be honest with you, it would really just depend on like who gives me who gives the best answers, like who's able to explain their game in a clear and concise manner, who is able to name specific things that they did on their own, not pushed by other people. That's probably what I would probably say. I mean, I think between those four, I'm probably more inclined to vote for a Brian or a Josh than I am a David or a Lee, just because I just don't like the way either of them have played the game. Lee, I feel like, has kind of just been like a goat the entire season. He even knows it. Like, look at the answers he put for touchy subjects. Like, he knows he's not doing a lot in the game. So I feel like Lee is someone that you bring to the end and probably is like doesn't get many votes at the end. And then David, again, I just don't understand the way he's played in the way that he has messaged people and refused to talk game with people. And it wasn't just me that he was doing the way. He didn't talk game with Jess, didn't talk game with Lucy, didn't talk game with Joe. It just didn't make sense to me why he decided to do that. So I think at least with Brian and Josh, like at least they reached out to me. At least they had conversations with me. They bullshitted me a lot. And I don't understand some of the lies that they decided to tell me. And I don't understand some of the moves that they made, but I think that at least with Brian and Josh, they can name specific things that they did and they can give me concise reasons as to why they did it. Then they will get my votes. But those two, it's going to be very hard.
All right. So a few more things. Would you say you have any regrets in the game? If so, are there any?
I do have some regrets in the game, to be honest with you. I think my biggest regret in the game was not being transparent enough with some people. Chantel basically told me, like, if I had been straight up with her and told her that OG Carval didn't benefit me and that, David was coming after me and there was just no way that I would be able to run with that, she would have understood it. And I think if I had done that, I could have played the game I wanted to play, because like I said, what I was trying to do was ride it out with the Incendios for a bit and then pivot to Carval when I found it necessary. And I think if I had been able to kind of been able to keep everyone, looped in on what I was doing and things like that, but not to the point where they figure out what I'm doing. I think that would have turned out a lot better for me. I was also trying to like downplay my game a lot, and I don't think I did a good job with that. Playing an idol really doesn't help either. That puts an immediate target on your back, especially when it's an effective one. But those are the things that I definitely think I could have improved upon. And I do think like, even though, like I said, I don't really like the way David's played the game. If I had just gone in like at the merge and been like, let's try to put this behind us, I think maybe something would have changed. I think maybe that would have clued him in that I'm not coming after him, but who knows? Who knows? Like there's always those like woulda, shoulda, couldas, but those are probably the things that I think I definitely should have done differently.
Okay. Lastly, for any future Inferno hopeful, and we've asked this to every person who's been eliminated, what would you say you would give as an advice, a tip when playing Inferno?
Oh, I think when playing this game, I think the best thing to remember is that this Inferno is a marathon. It's not a sprint. Like that's the best way to sum it up. This is going to be a long game. There are going to be a lot of things that you can't play every single round like you're at the merge. You have to take it week by week. And also don't go in with like, this is exactly what I'm going to do. You really just need to see how the cards fall, try to feel everyone out. Don't try to do anything crazy, because that's partially how I was able to win the game that I eventually did in EXP. I wasn't pushing super hard for people, and I wasn't this pre-merge either. It was just like the way things turned out. I think the best way to play this game is to just take things slow. Don't try to just dive headfirst into things and things like that. Really take your time to think about, does this benefit me? And I think if you're able to do that, I think you will get at least decently far in the game. So that's what I would say.
Hey, and with that, we are here with Kevin. And before we end the recording, anything last minute things you'd like to say?
This was a lot of fun. I will say, very different experience getting to play on a game hosted by like 3 of like my really good friends, but I had a really great time in doing so. I came into this game saying that this is going to be some of the hardest I've ever played in a game. I wanted to really show like how hard I can play, and I think I very much did do that. While it didn't quite work out the way I wanted it to, I think I did best with the cards I was dealt with. Like I said, there's few things I could have done differently. Reads also may not have been the greatest, but I'm mostly proud of the game that I ended up playing.
Okay. And with that, viewers watching this, that is Kevin. That is Kevin. It's late, y'all. It's late. We are here with Kevin, eighth placer, 4th member of the jury. And with that, thank you again, Kevin. Honestly, the full circle it's a circle.
Yeah.
I wanted to host an org. You were my first applicant.
Yep.
And here we are, where it actually became a thing, got players, got the game rolling, and here are you playing, made it to the
I was literally thinking about that like the other day. I was like, holy shit, I literally went from applying to Sean's game that didn't work out, and now I'm actually in Sean's game, and I like got pretty far.
Yes, and I'm pretty sure you were our first applicant this season as well. So
oh wow.
Turns out full circle.
Yeah, it really does.
That is it for the exit interview. Tune in for the next one coming up in a few seconds. Bye.